I'm still getting a bit emotional when I speak about this. A fairy tale too good to be true, yeah, that's how it feels like often. I wake up in the night sometimes and I look to the side and I see her sleeping there. I just double check that she's real and it wasn't just a dream. This video was taken the day she was born. And without being over dramatic, I can say it was the best day of my life, but also the worst. And I'll let you know why in a minute. This is my birth story. Hey Poet, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlotta if you're new here, and this is Sophia Aurora sleeping in her sleepy head. In this video I'm gonna share her birth story and everything that happened surrounding that time. And it's not a straightforward positive story. We had quite a lot of complications, unfortunately. We went from the midwife telling us in third trimester that this pregnancy is such an ideal pregnancy and she wished that she could have this kind of pregnancies for all of her patients because everything was going so well, she was growing well, everything was looking perfect. My blood pressure was even on the lower side. Everything was so good. So Sophia was born in week 38, and the reason for that was because I started having something called preeclampsia towards the end of the pregnancy. I was experiencing light in the room, in the air, like small dots of light, and I was feeling like I was about to faint. So I went to check my blood pressure and it was quite high. So then they were like thinking if they should take me in already. That was in week 36, should they take me in or not? But then I was allowed to go home, and I just kept going back nearly every day to get checkups. And so the symptoms for preeclampsia is high blood pressure, light visions, and swelling of the face, swelling of the wrists, and your feet as well can swell, and also protein in your urine sample. So that is why they decided to start the induction for her birth, for her labor, in week 38. We had it booked for Friday afternoon, so we went in and they already told us that we might need to wait quite a while. It's quite a slow process, so bring things to keep you entertained. So we had our laptop, we were playing chess, I was editing my induction hospital bag video there as well. It was around, I think it was around 9 o'clock in the evening. They inserted pessary medication to start to soften up the cervix so it would open up. It hadn't opened up at all at that point. That needed to be in for 24 hours, so that goes on to the next evening until they checked and realized that the pessary was not in the right place at all and hadn't worked the least. So everything was still the same. They kept keeping an eye on her movements, her heart rate and my heart rate to see that we are both okay. So they started to insert gel, which has the same medication, to soften up the cervix and start to open up. They were thinking about inserting a balloon, but because the cervix was so closed that they couldn't even get this balloon inside. There's this balloon that they pump up so it slowly opens up the cervix, but yeah, that didn't work either. So that was then day 3. And then every 4 hours they came to check my blood pressure as well. So I didn't really have a lot of sleep. I was in the hospital for a full week, and during that whole week I didn't get much sleep because they kept checking my blood pressure and checking on the baby, which of course they needed to do. They needed to see that we were both okay, but it was so tiring. That was for 4 days. They kept checking every now and then to see if I was opening up, and also adding more gel to speed up the process. Then finally on the 4th day, 6 o'clock in the morning, a nurse came in and said that the doctors have discussed and they have decided that it is my turn now. I've been in the hospital for so long. They're gonna move me to the labor ward and we're gonna get this started, and they're gonna break the water and take it from there. So I called David. David was not allowed to stay in the hospital overnight, so he had to leave every afternoon. So David came back in the morning and they broke the water. So I could just feel a flash of water coming out. And I was allowed to walk around still at this point. And at this point they injected oxytocin through IV. So I had a drip with oxytocin that would eventually start the contractions. And first I was moving around a bit and I slowly started to feel a little bit more. She was moving down as well. They checked and I had started opening up. So the oxytocin started to give me contractions. So at that point they told me that I needed to decide about epidural. And I decided to have it because it was not the way I thought it would be with the epidural. I've had knee operations before when I had epidural that made me completely like feel nothing from, it made me numb from waist down. I couldn't feel my legs and I saw them lifting my legs and I couldn't feel anything. So I thought the epidural will be like that. But it had this kind of pump. So they injected it through the spine in the back, and then it had this little tube that went to a device, and every 15 minutes I could press and it will release more through the epidural. So that was quite good. You could choose if you wanted to top up more or if you wanted to just have a little bit every now and then. So that is why I could still feel my legs, I could still move my legs, but it took away the edge of the pain. You could choose to add more and then you'll like completely numb your legs, but I didn't want to get that much, just a little bit to take off the pain. So at this point water was broken, her head was moving down, and then we got a new midwife that came in for the evening shift, so then it was already evening. We had been going through this for the whole day, a little bit of contractions, a little bit of water coming out every now and then. I thought when the water breaks everything flushes out and that's it, but it actually keeps kind of like sipping out throughout the day with all the contractions. Then towards the evening, the head was down enough to start pushing.
Say hi, Sean. Very happy baby. Green box is baby's heart, and the green line underneath is mama's heart.
So because Sophia's head was turned a little bit to the side, it was moving very slowly, and for every push she tried to turn the head. So I was pushing for 2 hours. Then she finally started to see the back of her head and some hair. And finally, at 3:55 a.m, Sophia was born. She was healthy and well. She was strong. She was beautiful. She was perfect. They lifted her up on my chest and she was, of course, like newborns can't see properly, but it was like she was looking me in the eyes and I was holding her. They put her straight on my chest and David cut the cord, and it was a beautiful moment. They left us alone for a while to just hold her, and then the midwives came back after a while and they measured her and...
See what she weighs.
How much? You said 3.5, didn't you? 3.5, let's see.
5'6", good guess. Oh, nappies.
It was a beautiful moment. Sophia, mama. So then they let us rest in the labor ward for a while. Labor wards are quite busy, so they don't want to keep you there for too long. So they wanted to move us to another ward for recovery. as soon as possible. So the night midwives, before they left from their ward, they wanted to see that I can walk around and that I'm okay to go to the other ward for recovery. When they asked me to stand up, I took like 2 steps and I felt like my legs were not stable enough and I was feeling ill and dizzy. Then I had the first flush of blood. So they said, okay, back to the bed and relax a bit. That clearly just needed to come out, the midwife said. And rest for a bit and just stay here for a while longer, they said. We stayed there for a while and they changed the shift. So 2 new midwives came in to say hi, checking on the breastfeeding, checking. Then they said that Sophia had low blood sugar, so they needed to give her a bottle of formula and also glucose. And this is a side effect of blood pressure medication. So unfortunately, she needed to have a little bit of glucose to up her blood sugar. A few hours later, when everything seemed fine, I had changed into my own clothes and we were about to start leaving the labor ward. They again asked me to stand up, and again I was feeling very dizzy and ill and I couldn't move, so they told me to back on the bed. And I laid down again and it was as if my water broke a second time, though she was delivered and the baby was there, there's no water to break. So I was like, I think that is blood. Just a few seconds later, they hit the alarm. I'm still getting a bit emotional when I speak about this. At this point, the midwife hit the alarm and all of the doctors from the whole ward came running into the room. And while they were in the room, they were all kind of talking to each other, telling them, okay, blood pressure is dropping, oxygen levels are dropping, and whatnot. I didn't even follow everything they were saying. They were just speaking to each other and everyone was kind of rushing around and measuring things. And then I had a second flush. Again, it felt like my water was breaking a second time, and obviously it wasn't water, it was blood. So they measured the blood and it was 2.5 liters. I think it was even more because they didn't measure the first time it happened. It happened 3 times, 3 flushes. So I lost nearly 50% of the blood in my body. And I later learned that 2 liters is the limit for a blood loss to be fatal. And once I learned that, that was quite scary. So then they came to tell me that I need a blood transfusion and I need a surgery, and they need to put me under general anesthetics and take me to the theater room. They told me about the risks, that in life-threatening situations they will need to remove the womb and they might need to enter from the stomach. So I had to sign the papers for the risks, and I was just looking at Sophia and she was sleeping in these hospital beds that they have for babies, and she was just peaceful and calm and no one was really paying attention to her because everyone were around me. David was next to me, he was holding my hand, he was keeping my spirit high and he was so calm. And he was telling jokes and making me laugh even though I felt so ill. But all I could think about was what will happen to her if I'm not here. So anyways, I signed the papers and they rolled me off to the theater. David stayed with the baby. And this was obviously a scary time for him as well, but he kept so calm. I was so impressed with him. Then after the surgery, they took me to another ward where you wake up after surgery. And I woke up there. I think I was asleep about 20, David said about 20-30 minutes. He was sitting next to me while I was snoring away. He said when he heard someone coming rolling, they were rolling someone in, and when he heard the snore, he knew it was me. I was snoring away for half an hour, and then I finally woke up and I saw him sitting next to me, and I was like, hey, what's going on? What happened? And I was attached to so many devices around me. Both of my legs were attached to a machine that was like putting pressure and releasing pressure around my legs to prevent blood clots. I had IVs from both hands. I had antibiotics to prevent infection, and I don't even know all of the IVs. I'm gonna have a birth rebrief with the surgeons. I'm still waiting for them to get in touch with me. Now 12 weeks later, I still haven't heard from them, but eventually I'm gonna have a birth debrief as well. But yes, I had so many things going on. I had the blood pressure being measured. That was on around my arm, and it was measuring automatically I think every 10 minutes. It was putting pressure around my arm. I had these stickers around my chest to check my heart, and I had a balloon inside my uterus, which they had placed there during the surgery to put pressure inside the uterus to stop the bleeding. This balloon was inside, and then there was this bag that was collecting blood. Sorry for all the unpleasant details, but yeah, it was a hemorrhage and it was bloody, so I can't really avoid speaking about that. It's quite scary for everyone involved, not only for me, not only for the fathers, the surgeons as well. It looks like a scene from a horror movie. Blood everywhere. I was laying in a pool of blood. Oh my goodness. I don't know how long it will take for me to fully be calm around this subject. It's still making me emotional when I speak about it now. But I felt like I wanted to share this story with you guys. She reminds me of what happened, and I'm so thankful to be here. So let me go back to where I stopped. I had all of these devices attached to me and everything, and this was now day 5 in the hospital. Later that evening, they emptied the balloon in 2 parts to check that the bleeding had stopped, and then they removed it completely, and the bleeding had stopped, and it was a successful surgery. They checked my blood levels, and all my levels were top, and they had given me 4 units of blood in my blood transfusion, 4 bags of blood. And whoever donated blood, I am so thankful, because that is why I am here today and I'm feeling wonderful. And the moment I woke up from the surgery, I felt great again. The levels of my blood was so good. My hemoglobin was higher than average, and yes, everything was great again. It was like day and night before and after the surgery. So then once they had removed all the IVs and all of the devices that I was attached to, I got to test my legs again. For 2 days I didn't eat. I wasn't allowed to eat during the epidural, and I wasn't allowed to eat after the surgery in case I had to go back into surgery. So they gave me a little meal. I had like a sandwich, and then the midwife helped me to walk around a little bit. We went for a short walk in the corridor, and my legs were working again, but I walked like a grandpa. Sophia was next to me all the time in her hospital bed, but because of everything that I was attached to, I couldn't leave the bed, I couldn't stand up. So whenever I wanted to hold her, someone had to come and bring her to me. They were still measuring her blood sugar as well, and she was being fed with formula, with bottles, to keep her blood sugar levels even. So once I was able to walk around, they moved me to a different ward, and that's where we stayed that night. It was nighttime when I moved there. It was around 1 o'clock. So we stayed there that night, and then the next full day, and then one more night, when the doctors came to check in on us and told us that we are finally okay to go home. Woo-hoo!
That comes off, and you just get rid of it in the yellow bin, and that's it.
Okay.
Basically.
So this one, okay. So
Exactly.
again, the angle is straight.
So it's
not.
you basically like holding a pen, and you just inject it all the way in. Make sure the needle is all the way inside the skin,
Yeah.
and push this white basically plunge it all the way inside until the safety cap comes off again. Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
You want to do this, same-ish time around every day. So if you do it this evening, you want to do it around the same time tomorrow for the next 6 weeks as well. Okay. So basically, those is your injection. Obviously, the blood pressure medication you were having it every morning, wasn't it? So you had it around 7 o'clock, around 7:15 this morning. So try to stick to it around that same.
The first 2 weeks at home, we got deliveries every single day. Several deliveries of all of these wonderful gifts that you guys sent over to us. Thank you. It humbled me every single time someone came to deliver something. Nearly made me cry. I also want to thank all of you guys who have shared so much love in the comment section on the videos with Sophia. I have read every single comment. I think I have replied to all of them. If I have missed some, I do apologize. We have been quite busy looking after this little piglet over here. But I do appreciate every single one of you, and I'm gonna share some of the comments here on the screen as well. If you have a birth story that you want to share with us, leave it in the comment section below, and I will pin them one by one, so that others can see your birth stories as well. Thank you so much for watching. This story was a little bit heavy. It's a little bit heavier than my usual videos, but thank you so much for watching, and the story still has a happy ending, so yes. I want to share this with you guys. This is a print from Mapiful. I'm gonna share their website as well. They sent it over to us as a gift after Sophia was born. So you can choose a photo, and then you can choose a text which shows the lyrics from You Are My Sunshine, and then Sophia's name and date of birth and measurements. And you can also choose a map or your horoscope, and they will send it over to you. Let me show you a screenshot from their website as well. Can you believe that Sophia slept through the whole video? And thank you as well for watching all the way till the end. I think most of the viewers watch about like 1 max 2 minutes. But if you're still watching, thank you so much for staying with us, and I hope to see you in next video. Ha det bra! Bye!